What's going on, guys? It's your average consumer, and the brand new iPad mini 2019 is finally here. But in today's age where we have phones with much bigger displays, iPad Pros running around, you gotta ask the question, is it too late? Now, one of the biggest criticisms we've seen online about the new iPad mini is its design. This thing is still rocking the same design as the previous iPad mini, so a lot of people feel like it's a dated look. And I gotta admit, I kind of agree with it. I did wish Apple went with the newer look that we see with the iPad Pros. Those look absolutely beautiful, but this guy, with those big bezels at the top and bottom, it does look a bit dated. Now, Apple's thought process for this design is that the folks that have iPad minis already will be able to pick this up and use the same accessories and things that they already have with their original iPad minis, and this thing pretty much replaces it right away. And while I like that thought process, the techie in me just can't get over the fact that this does look like an older iPad. I would have absolutely loved to see the smaller bezels on this guy, because then we'd also have Face ID, which we don't have here. Instead, we do have Touch ID, but it would have been nicer to see that new iPad Pro look come to something like the iPad mini. And while we're on the subject of no Face ID and now having Touch ID, after using this device for a while, there are some benefits and some drawbacks. Getting into the device with Touch ID, so much faster for me. It's just instant, guys. You just press the button, boom, you're in. I love that aspect of Touch ID. But now after having Touch ID, I kind of see where I'm missing Face ID, whether it's logging into certain apps or accessing passwords. You really don't get that quick login that you get with Face ID. Now you kind of have to go back for the home button, which honestly is not a big deal, but if you're coming from a device that uses Face ID, you will see where it is a little bit of a step back beyond using Touch ID to unlock the device. Now, something else that's a bit of a throwback is that this thing uses a Lightning port. So that means the Lightning cable is the main way to charge this guy. So no USB Type-C. We would have seen that if this thing got the refreshed design, but it has the older design, which means Lightning. Now, as techies, we always want to see tech move forward, bring on the USB Type-C, but if you really think about it, folks who have iPhones and maybe an older iPad, they're not going to want to walk around with two different cables. It's still more convenient to have the Lightning cable. If the iPhone was sporting the USB Type-C already, then that'd be a different story. But everyone's still using Lightning cables to charge their iPhones. So that is something I think a lot of people will still appreciate with the Mini, that you only need to walk around with one cable. Now, even though this thing is sporting that older design, Apple did make some upgrades. And the main improvements I want to mention are an improved display, so it gets brighter, it's laminated, and it also has support for the Apple Pencil. Sadly, it's the first generation Apple Pencil. If this thing had the new iPad Pro design, we'd be looking at Apple Pencil 2 support. Sadly, it's the first one because it has to charge up with that Lightning port. Kinda sucks, but it is cool to see Apple Pencil support come to the iPad nonetheless. And not to mention, this thing got a huge spec bump with the A12 Bionic chip that's inside of it, which leads it to be about 7 to 9 times faster than the previous generation. Which means this thing is going to be quite the performer. The A12 chip is one of the best chips on the market for mobile devices. Now, that brings us to the questions, who is this for? And who isn't it for? Now, Apple is clearly targeting folks who probably own the older generations of the iPad mini, or those folks out there who love the form factor but want it to be a device that lives up to today's standards. And with the A12 Bionic chip, that's definitely possible. For me, in my time using it, I've been able to do everything that I do on a mobile device on this without skipping a beat. So that's watching video content, web browsing, and of course, y'all know me, gaming. So lots of gaming, and this thing pretty much handles everything like a champ. And for me, it's been really cool to have all of that power in a form factor that is just insanely portable. Like, honestly, guys, I've been able to put this thing in my jacket pocket. Like, that is absurd. It's a tablet that can go in my pocket. It can fit in Ari's purse. It's just really nice to be able to take this out, put it away with no problem. It's just really cool how portable this thing is. And honestly, that portability pretty much changes the way I use the iPad mini. For me, as an iPad Pro user, I use that big 12.9-inch display to enjoy gaming and watching tons and tons of content. Like, I will go for my iPad before I go for like my laptop to watch something. But with the iPad mini, it being so portable and in this smaller form factor, it kind of changes the way I look at this as a device. And with it now having Apple Pencil support, jotting down notes has just been a really nice experience. I usually walk around with notebooks like these. You guys, if you know me, you know that I love to walk around with these in my backpacks. With this, it can go right into my jacket pocket, and when I need it, I just pull it out, jot down a note. It's actually a really, really nice experience from a productivity standpoint. And something I think a lot of people are underestimating is the fact that because this thing has a 7.9-inch display and we have phones that have like 6-inch displays, that it's a very similar experience, but it really isn't. So I've got like my iPhone XS Max over here and the iPad mini. And you can see while the numbers sound very close, they're not the same form factor at all. This is like a very skinny display. This is a wider 4:3 aspect ratio. So it is a very different feel than what you get with your iPhone or any other phone. And that's great because you can see content differently on an iPad mini than you can on an iPhone XS Max. Apps can be optimized for iPads, so you can see a lot more information. The experience is just totally different. Now, we kind of talked about all the reasons why I like it, who I kind of think that this is for, but let's talk about who it's not for. And that is for folks who want an iPad with a much bigger display. So check this out. Over here, we have an iPad Pro. This is the 12.9-inch version. So this is a very, very big difference here. This is the biggest that Apple offers versus the smallest. If you're a creative, someone who probably takes their canvas very seriously, if you're an artist and you're using the pencil, you're not gonna get that big old display that you get on something like the iPad Pro. With this guy, while you still have a lot of the capabilities, a bigger canvas is a bigger canvas. So you're not gonna get that here. But if the size of the display really matters to you, this might not be what you're looking for, and you might wanna consider something like the iPad or iPad Pro. But with this smaller display, that also means that content consumption isn't going to be the same experience as with something like that iPad. If you're not really looking at this because of the overall form factor and you're just kind of looking at the price, the iPad might be a better option since that one's like 70 bucks cheaper. And it's still got an A10 chip, not as good as the A12, but you do get to save some money there. But let's get back to the original question. Is it too late for this to exist? And I'm gonna go with no. I think that if you pick this up, that you're going to enjoy it. I've been really enjoying my time with it. Is the design too late? Yes. It is way too late for this thing to still have this design. I wish that it had the iPad Pro design. I can't stress that enough. But honestly, someone picking this up isn't going to have issues with performance, the quality that they're gonna get out of this. It's still an absolutely great tablet, and the portability is just insane. This thing's crazy thin, really small. You can put it away anywhere. And I think that the average person who doesn't really care about that stuff, they just want a small iPad, is gonna walk away pretty happy with the experience. At least from what I can tell, I've been able to do everything I've wanted on this without an issue. I just wish it looked different. But that about wraps it up for this video, guys. I have been really enjoying this iPad mini, to my surprise, because I'm so big on the 12.9-inch version, but this one is really solid. Let me know your thoughts with a comment down below. If you enjoyed the video, be the cool guy or girl that gives it a thumbs up. I'm gonna catch y'all in the next one. Till then, it's your average consumer. Peace.